The Wish Box. In Wish Upon, the protagonist, Claire Shannon, is a teenage girl who struggles with bullying at school, while still carrying the trauma of her mother's death. Her life changes when her father, who is known for digging through dumpsters and discarded items, finds an old Chinese music box and gives it to her as a gift. At first, it seems like nothing more than a strange antique, but Claire soon discovers that the box has a supernatural power. It can grant wishes. Of course, there's one important catch. Every wish comes with a price, although no one knows exactly what that price will be. Excited by the discovery, Claire decides to use the artifact to get revenge on Darcy, a popular girl who constantly humiliates others at school. Her wish is simple, and she wants the bully to rot. And to Claire's amazement, the wish begins coming true, but the box never gives anything for free. While Claire celebrates her rival's suffering, something terrible happens inside her own home. Max, her dog, and one of the few loyal companions she has, disappears. Soon afterward, she discovers that he paid the price for her wish. This is the moment Claire realizes there's something deeply wrong with the box. Every benefit it grants is balanced by a painful and completely unpredictable loss. Although the film divided audiences, most people agreed on one thing. Hurting the dog was probably the fastest way to make viewers hate the cursed box: a friend zone. In Obsession, we're introduced to Bear, a shy young man who's hopelessly in love with his classmate Nikki. The problem is, he never finds the courage to tell her how he feels. When frustration finally gets the better of him, he turns to a supernatural artifact known as the One Wish Willow, capable of granting wishes. Without thinking about the consequences, Bear wishes that Nikki would love him more than anyone else in the world. It sounds like the perfect romantic wish, but the artifact finds a terrifying way to grant it. Soon afterward, Nikki's behavior changes completely. She becomes obsessively devoted to Bear, wanting to be with him every second. At first, it feels like a dream come true, but it quickly becomes a nightmare. The wish doesn't actually make Nikki fall in love. Instead, it creates an entity that takes control of her body. The real Nikki remains trapped inside herself, fully aware of what's happening, but completely unable to stop it. As the obsession grows stronger, the corrupted version of Nikki begins seeing everyone close to Bear as a threat. Friends and acquaintances suddenly find themselves in danger simply for being part of his life. That's when Bear realizes the magnitude of his mistake. The love he wanted never truly existed. What he created was a forced, possessive obsession, completely stripping Nikki of any choice or consent. And well, anyone who's seen the movie knows things go way beyond the limit. Instead of presenting the wish as something romantic, Obsession shows how trying to force someone else's feelings can lead to consequences far more terrifying. The magic chalks. In Tigers Are Not Afraid, Estrella is a young girl living in a city consumed by violence. After her mother disappears, she's left completely alone and survives alongside a group of abandoned children. Everything changes after a school shooting, when her teacher gives her 3 magical pieces of chalk, each capable of granting one wish. Estrella's first wish is for her mother to come home. The wish comes true, but in the cruelest possible way. Her mother returns only as a ghost that begins following her, revealing she had actually been murdered. Later, Estrella becomes caught in a conflict with criminals and is ordered to kill one of them. Unable to take someone's life, she uses her second wish instead. The result? The criminal dies on his own, without Estrella ever pulling the trigger. After 2 disastrous experiences, she wants nothing more to do with magic. But Shine, one of the orphaned boys, asks her to use the final wish to remove the scars covering his face. In the end, she agrees, but once again, fate fulfills the wish in the cruelest way imaginable. The scars disappear because Shine dies and continues existing only as a spirit, finally free from the marks on his body. The Merman. In The Cabin in the Woods, Steve Hadley works at a secret facility that controls the events of a ritual involving a group of young people trapped inside a cabin. While the protagonists believe they're living through a typical horror movie nightmare, Steve and the other employees watch everything from afar, manipulating every detail. Throughout the film, Steve has one very unusual frustration. Out of dozens of monsters available for the rituals, there's one he's always wanted to see in action: the Merman. According to him, after so many years working there, he'd never gotten the chance to witness that creature firsthand. Because of that, the subject keeps coming up in conversation, almost like a running joke. And well, you can probably guess what happens. At the end of the story, the facility loses control after every imprisoned creature escapes. The place turns into absolute chaos, with monsters roaming every hallway and turning the former controllers into prey. That's when Steve finally gets what he always wanted. He comes face to face with the legendary Merman. Only now he's standing right in front of it. Realizing the irony of the situation, Steve still complains before the monster attacks him.
Oh, come on.
The Cheerleaders. In All Cheerleaders Die, everything begins with Maddie Killian, a student determined to expose Terry, the captain of the football team. She believes he's connected to the death of her best friend and also carries resentment from traumatic experiences in her own past. To get close to him, Maddie joins the cheerleading squad, putting her revenge plan into motion. But everything spirals out of control during a party. After a fight, Terry and his friends chase the car carrying Maddie and the other cheerleaders. The pursuit ends in a horrific crash, killing all of them. That's when Lena, Maddie's ex-girlfriend, enters the story. Devastated by their their deaths, she uses magical stones to perform a resurrection ritual. The spell works, but not the way she expected. The girls come back to life with a series of bizarre side effects. Some even have their consciousness transferred into different bodies, creating total chaos. On top of that, they begin sharing emotions and physical sensations as if they're all connected by a single collective mind. Worst of all, the magic comes with a price. To stay alive, the girls develop a supernatural hunger for human blood. What started as a desire for justice ends up creating a much bigger nightmare: the genie in the lamp. In the outing, the story revolves around an ancient lamp that houses a jinn, a supernatural entity that's nothing like the friendly genies from children's stories. Instead of granting wishes kindly, this creature uses every opportunity to spread destruction. The protagonist is Alex Wallace, the daughter of a museum curator who becomes connected to the artifact. Without realizing it, she falls under the jinn's influence, and the creature finds a particularly cruel way to carry out its plans. What's most interesting is that the wish triggering the entire tragedy doesn't happen during the main story. Sometime earlier, in a moment of anger toward her father, Alex had said she wished he were dead. It was only an impulsive outburst, something she never imagined could have real consequences. But the jinn chooses to interpret those words literally. Using that old wish as justification, the creature manipulates Alex into gathering her friends inside the museum at night. What should have been an ordinary get-together quickly turns into a deadly trap. But the jinn's goal isn't just to target Alex's father. It begins hunting the teenagers and spreading chaos throughout the museum, transforming the building into a nightmare. As the situation worsens, it becomes clear that the creature's real plan is to isolate Alex from everyone around her. The more alone she becomes, the easier she'll be to control. The perfect wish. In Wishmaster, everything begins when an ancient gemstone containing a powerful jinn is accidentally discovered. And yes, it has the same name as the demon from the previous film, but this is a completely different supernatural creature. Centuries earlier, the jinn had been imprisoned by a sorcerer to prevent him from unleashing his kind upon the earth. When the gem falls into the hands of Alex Amberson, the jinn is finally released and begins putting his plan for ultimate freedom into motion. The creature possesses one terrifying ability. It grants wishes. However, every wish is twisted in the cruelest way imaginable. A man who wishes to never feel pain again ends up dying. A woman who dreams of eternal beauty is transformed into a mannequin. The more wishes he grants, the more souls he collects. The jinn's ultimate goal is to make Alex grant 3 wishes. Only then can he open a portal and unleash legions of creatures just like himself. When he finally confronts her, Alex uses her first wish to discover what he truly is. In response, the jinn transports her into a hellish world hidden inside the gemstone itself, where the souls of his victims suffer for eternity. Horrified, she uses her second wish to escape that place. During the film's climax, the jinn turns a luxurious party into a massacre and threatens Alex's sister to force her into making the third and final wish. But Alex comes up with an unexpected solution. Instead of fighting him directly, she wishes that the crane operator responsible for the accident that freed the jinn had never been drinking on the job. The wish rewrites the timeline, prevents the accident from ever happening, and traps the jinn back inside the gemstone, erasing all the horrors he had caused. The magic totem. In Wishcraft, Brett Bumpers is your typical invisible high school student who only wants one thing: to get noticed by Samantha, the school's most popular girl. His chance comes when he discovers a magical totem capable of granting 3 wishes, and by now, you already know this won't end well. For his first wish, Brett wants Samantha to invite him to the prom, and it works immediately. She asks him out, they go together, and everything feels like a teenage dream. But soon afterwards, she changes her mind and says she'd rather just be friends. Meanwhile, mysterious murders begin targeting the school's popular students, all committed by a masked killer wearing a terrifying mask. The atmosphere quickly turns unsettling and nobody understands why. For his second wish, Brett asks for Samantha to fall deeply in love with him. The result? She leaves her boyfriend, the star football player, and becomes completely obsessed with Brett. Then comes the twist that changes everything. The totem had already belonged to Mr. Turner, one of the school's teachers. Turner had used his own wishes after his wife's death to gain a massive fortune and superhuman strength. It was that strength he used to murder the students he hated, meaning the beloved teacher had been the masked killer all along. The cruel detail is that the totem has to be passed from one owner to another. That's why Turner intentionally gave it to Brett, his favorite student, dumping the entire curse onto him. And even worse, Samantha is the final name on Turner's hit list. For his last wish, with nowhere left to run, Brett wishes to become stronger and faster than Turner. The two face off, and in the end, Brett kills the teacher. The Monkey's Paw. In The Monkey's Paw, the story follows Jake Tilton, an ordinary man who finds himself trapped in the classic nightmare surrounding the cursed monkey's paw, an artifact that grants 3 wishes while always demanding a terrible price. At first, Jake doesn't take it seriously, until he realizes every wish twists reality in the worst possible way. His first wish happens on impulse. While sitting in a bar with his friend Tony Cobb, Jake spots a perfect sports car and wishes it belonged to him. The wish is granted instantly. The car appears as if it had always been his, but his excitement doesn't last long. During a drive, Jake loses control of the vehicle and crashes violently. He survives, but Cobb dies in the accident, becoming the story's first major tragedy. Overwhelmed with guilt, Jake tries to undo the damage by making his second wish. He wants Cobb back alive, and it works, it's just not the way it should. Cobb returns alive, but completely unstable, violent, and out of control, soon embarking on a murderous rampage. After discovering the monkey's paw's rules, Cobb demands that Jake use the final wish so his son can once again become part of his life. When he realizes Jake won't give in easily, Cobb snaps and unleashes even more violence to pressure him. With no other option left, Jake uses his third and final wish. He wishes for Cobb to get his soul back. The wish succeeds, forcing Cobb to experience the full weight of everything he's done, driving him to his own life. The Creed Curse. In the 2019 version of Pet Sematary, Louis Creed has just moved his family to what seems like a peaceful rural town when his daughter Ellie dies in a tragic accident. Consumed by grief and unable to accept her death, he ignores every warning from his elderly neighbor, Judd Crandall, and buries Ellie's body in an ancient burial ground hidden deep in the woods. Legend says that whatever is buried there comes back to life. The problem is, nothing comes back the same. When Ellie returns, Louis believes for a brief moment that his plan has worked, but it quickly becomes clear that this is no longer his daughter. She still remembers her previous life, but her personality has become cruel, manipulative, and tainted by an evil presence that returned with her. From that moment on, Louis' desperate attempt to end his suffering only creates even more pain. People close to him begin dying, the family falls apart, and the curse spreads throughout the entire Creed household. What's most interesting is that the film never presents resurrection as a miracle. From the very beginning, it's portrayed as a temptation. Louis believes he's defying death out of love, only to discover in the worst possible way that some doors should never be opened. A mother's wish. In Death Dream, the wish that sets the entire story in motion doesn't come from a magical object or an evil genie. It comes from the desperation of a mother. Christine Brooks refuses to accept that her son Andy has died fighting in the war. She keeps insisting he'll come home and wishes with all her heart for him to return. And terrifyingly, he does. Just days after news of his death, Andy suddenly appears at the family's front door wearing his military uniform. His father, Charles, and his sister Kathy are shocked but overjoyed. Christine, meanwhile, sees it as proof that she'd been right all along. There's just one problem. Andy doesn't behave like a normal person anymore. He barely speaks, spends hours sitting motionless, and grows increasingly unsettling. As the days pass, mysterious deaths begin occurring around town. At the same time, Andy's body slowly starts decomposing. What no one realizes at first is that he truly died in Vietnam. The young man who came home is a living corpse that must feed on blood to slow his own decay. Things rapidly get worse. Andy becomes increasingly violent, attacking those closest to him and leaving tragedy wherever he goes. Meanwhile, Christine continues trying to protect him, unable to accept the truth even when it's literally standing in front of her. In the end, Christine gets exactly what she wished for. Andy comes home, but sometimes getting what you want is even worse than losing it. The Stolen Ring. In Bride of Chucky, Tiffany Valentine believes she's finally about to live the romance of her dreams. As the former girlfriend of Charles Lee Ray, whose soul now inhabits the Chucky doll, she spent years holding onto a ring she believes was meant to be a marriage proposal. Determined to bring him back, Tiffany recovers the destroyed doll's remains, stitches him back together, and performs a voodoo ritual to resurrect him. Her wish is simple: to reunite with the man she loves and finally build a life together. But Chucky shatters that fantasy almost immediately. The moment he comes back to life, he reveals the truth. The ring was never an engagement ring. It was simply a stolen piece of jewelry he planned to sell. Tiffany realizes she spent years believing in a story that was never real. Humiliated and furious, she locks Chucky inside a baby playpen and mocks him relentlessly. The problem is, Chucky escapes. Not long afterward, he gets his revenge by killing Tiffany. But even that isn't the end of the story. Using voodoo magic, Chucky transfers Tiffany's soul into the body of a bridal doll. Now there are two killer dolls searching for a way to return to human bodies. And if you want to see what happens to both of them next, there's a video on your screen where we break down Chucky's entire evolution, from the movies all the way to the TV series. Click it, check it out, and I'll see you there.